Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vicini. We are presented by The Athletic and CLNS Media. Today on the show, we've got good friend of the program, Dieter Kurtenbach, back to talk Western Conference over-unders. You heard Dieter and I's voice for a long time last week, so, I don't know that I really need to introduce him, do I? Do you feel like I need to?
You definitely don't need to do it for me, and if you still need to do it for the audience, they're just not as loyal as you thought they were.
This is a good point. We're coming off of college football starting last night. Dieter and I are both big college football fans. Me mostly for gambling, Dieter because he actually likes watching college football.
Yeah, I'm weird.
I actually like watching college football too. But
did you enjoy it last night when Ohio State wasn't looking terrible for the first half against lowly Indiana?
I was, that's a good question. I was pretty frustrated, I would say. I'm still exceedingly concerned about JT Barrett. JT Barrett's been in college since I was in college, and that was a while back. Yeah, JT Barrett's been in college so far that JT Barrett the sixth has been born. Not just, I don't know if JT has kids or not, but
someone
even
else.
If he doesn't, JT Barrett the sixth has been born by now. He's been in college for 40 fucking years.
JT Barrett has played with both Bosas?
Yes, JT Barrett has played with both Bosas. I'm trying to think if there are any other, if there's a really
a Ohio State
funny one. Because, he's a fifth-year senior, so, I'm trying to think, who was back on the, 2013 team.
Has Urban Meyer retired at all in the interim of JT Barrett playing quarterback for Ohio State?
No, but I would think that JT Barrett was probably there when Luke Fickell was there.
Luke Fickell, playing linebacker.
The head coach? Yeah, Luke Fickell playing defensive tackle.
I think he was. I think he was there pre-Urban. I don't actually know that. Someone should Google that, and we should probably talk some basketball.
No, Luke Fickell was 2011. I thought it was 2013 for some reason. That's funny, though. Anyway, yes, I was concerned.
Luke Fickell has been tied to 75 jobs in the time that JT Barrett has been quarterback. That's for sure.
Yes, that's definitely true. And he's now the coach of Cincinnati, which is actually a really good fit for him. So
yes,
shout out Luke Fickell. Yeah, I'm concerned about JT Barrett. I know that he just put up he threw for 300 some yards. Ran for another touchdown.
It looked okay in the box score.
The box score looked good, but he also missed every single miss that he threw was just the worst goddamn miss that you can imagine. He was missing open receivers constantly.
And it's not just missing in terms of accuracy of the throw. He just wasn't seeing wide open people.
Yeah, no, it's that.
Often.
And it's not even just he's missing so that these guys can't get runs after the catch. He is, and he did that early on that wheel route with J.K. Dobbins, where that also should have been 6. But he also was doing it he was missing by 10 yards on some throws. It was ugly. But then in the second half, he calmed down. It was nice. He also just hit a lot of really wide open receivers, and
that helps.
Let them
it
run
helps
after
to have
the
guys
catch.
wide open. Yeah,
yeah. I don't know. I'm still concerned about that. We'll see.
That
how
defense
it goes.
is sick, though.
The defense is filthy. I think they're in good shape there. Whenever you have just the best defensive line in the country,
it's so good. Especially when you consider the state of spread offenses in college football. We already see this happening in the NFL, where really only 1 out of every 4 downs is there a blitz. And college football has to be even less because it's so spread out comparatively to even the NFL, which is spreading out more and more. If you can't get pressure with 4, you have no chance in any league now, but especially in college football. And Ohio State in the Big Ten can get pressure with 4, sometimes even 3 on every single down, and that is just a cheat code. As a Missouri fan, I had been I put it in the past tense, accustomed to seeing 4-man rushes get to the quarterback time in, time out, and Ohio State certainly understands that. But Bosa, this Nick Bosa character, I've known him from my time in South Florida. I covered Joey when he was in high school and covered his recruitment and stuff like that. And it was never a doubt that either of them were going to go to Ohio State. But I remember talking to Joey, who, of course, was the defensive player of the year in the NFL last year in a damn freak show. Yeah. when he was, I think, or when Nick was a freshman, and Joey said, Nick is better than me right now. And I go, that's a ridiculous thing to say. You're like the number 3 recruit in the country. And he goes, no, Nick is better than me right now, and he's going to be way better than me in the future. And then we like had like a Larry David stare at each other moment where we're trying to figure out if he was trying to break or not. And then his mom's like, he is. And I'm like, this is nuts. And like yesterday, I was looking at him and go, I think they might be right, because
he just collapses the pocket every goddamn time. Like,
I mean, if he's not the number 1 overall pick in his draft year, I think he's just surefire.
And you know what the funniest thing about all of this is? He doesn't start. Like
that's such a frickin' Ohio State thing to do.
Yeah, like
we want to limit his snaps.
Like, I don't think anyone doubts that, like, from a standpoint of, like, you know, being able to actually play against the run and, you know, just being able to more consistently collapse the pocket. Like, he's better than Sam Hubbard, not to take anything away from Sam Hubbard,
Hubbard's
who
really
is, like,
good.
a potential first-round pick in and of himself. But, like, at the same time, like, Nick Bosa is just a freak show. He is an absolute freak show.
I love watching him play. This has been the Buckeye Report.
Yeah, this will probably end up happening, like, on the Monday podcast, like, randomly. Let's move on. Let's talk Western Conference over-unders. That is the crux of this podcast, not an Ohio State victory breakdown. So, same thing as Wednesday when I podcasted with Robbie Calland about Eastern Conference teams. We are going to do a thing where I ask Dieter, is the number too high, too low, just right? Are you staying away from this? Do you think that, you know, this is worth considering putting money down on? And we'll kind of go back and forth on each team. Hopefully this will be shorter than the one with Robbie. Let's go on ahead and move on and start talking about the Dallas Mavericks. Again, we do these in alphabetical order. The Dallas Mavericks have a number of 35.5. The Mavericks last year won 33 games. They're expecting a 3-point bump here or a 3-win bump here in overall record. I'm probably staying away from this, but what way do you lean on it?
I would lean over.
I think I agree, just because.
Here's how I look at it. I think Dennis Smith is going to give them way more than Yogi Ferrell or JJ Barea could have, even though Yogi Ferrell had that nice stretch. Like, I think that's it. I know there's going to be, but he's not going to be like. I think Dennis Smith wins Rookie of the Year. I don't think that he's some sort of game changer. I don't think he puts the Mavericks in the playoffs, but I think he gets them. I think he gets them somewhere into that conversation early on. I'm concerned about Seth Curry. I think Wesley Matthews, who knows what you're going to get from him. Harrison Barnes is a solid player. You know, Dirk. Here's the
Dirk's the wild card to me.
Dirk's the wild card, but ultimately, I think the game changer on this one is Nerlens, who's going into he accepted his qualifying offer. He's in a prove it year, and I think the offensive game comes through a little bit more this year. I think that's worth a couple of wins right there, and maybe a win or two right there. Add in a win or two for Dennis Smith. I think that gets them 4 or 5 wins over where they were last year. Especially then you consider the rest of the Western Conference. So I'm going to go lean over, but that's a really good number, and I would stay away from it.
Yeah, I think I lean over. I just tend not to bet against Rick Carlisle,
Also a very good point, yeah.
Yeah, like that seems like the smarter move to me. So Dirk played 54 games last year, right? Like that is, I think, the second lowest of his career going back to his rookie season. The question is this going to be a recurring thing? Do they try and take care of him and manage him all the way down to around, the 60-game mark? Or do they try and take care of him and manage him, more to around the 70 to 72-game mark? I don't think there's any doubt that Dirk's going to miss quite a few games this year. Just, sitting him on back-to-backs, trying to get him through the season, trying to make sure that he is, geared up for later in the season or potentially the playoffs, because I'm sure that that's what they're going for. If you told me Dirk was going to play 66 games this year, I would almost certainly say that this number goes over.
Yeah, but come on, that's a bold proclamation if you're really thinking.
Well,
that.
I think it's more like, could you tell me that Dirk does not get hurt? Because I think that if Dirk doesn't get hurt, I think 66 is probably right around the number he plays.
Yeah, the calculus changes if he doesn't get hurt, but he's also old.
Right, so that makes it a lot tougher. You know,
it also depends on how they use him. I mean, like, is he going to be, you know, the starting 4, or you know, is he going to get serious minutes at the 5? I mean, depending on his usage, and if he just needs to be a spot up shooter as sort of a second option in the offense, that changes things significantly for me as well. I mean, he could just be a second unit gunner and put up mad buckets with the second unit. I mean, I don't know.
I like the idea of pairing him with Nerlens, though, because that can at least, he can like recover and help a lot more for when people blow by Dirk and, you know, just cause issues for Dallas defensively. You know, playing him in between Wes Matthews and Nerlens essentially, I think, is the best way to go about, you know, taking care of him long term this year. Like, I would think their starting lineup is probably Dennis Smith, Wes Matthews, Harrison Barnes, Dirk, and Nerlens.
I think that's fair. And let's also establish that Dennis Smith is going to bring a lot of dribble drive to this team that they just didn't have last year, and that's going to create more open shots. So they're
and pick and pop opportunities for Dirk whenever the help really has to, you know, try and cut off Dennis, because Dennis is just lightning. So
So I just, if it meshes, and listen, I think Dennis Smith works. There is a lot of ways this thing does not work. It is a very combustible situation.
It's a rookie point guard.
It's a rookie point guard with Rick Carlisle, and it's a headstrong rookie point guard with Rick Carlisle. Like, this thing could blow up fast. But given his athleticism, I can't imagine that the team regresses at all with him in play. And I think that given his athleticism and his ability to single-handedly affect the game at the most important position on the floor, there's a real opportunity for upset here. But I would still stay away from that number, because 35. I mean, I can't see them being a 500 team. And if you can't say that with any clarity, then you really shouldn't get anywhere near a 36, 35 number.
You know, I think that they can get, like, I think that's a far end outcome, though. Like a far end of the curve outcome. Like, if you told me this team won 44 games,
I mean, it's not implausible, but it's just not. We're talking betting here. We don't play the implausibles.
Right. So, like, the thing would be then that you would have to tell me Dirk plays 66 games, Nerlens gets through a full season healthy, neither Wes Matthews nor Harrison Barnes get hurt, Seth Curry stays healthy. Like, you'd basically be saying this entire team would have to stay healthy, in my opinion.
And Dennis Smith and Rick Carlisle would have to live in harmony forever and ever.
Right, and, you know, maybe they will, maybe they won't. We don't know yet, I think, there. His track record with rookie point guards isn't great. He also has never had a rookie point guard that is really Dennis's level. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be fine. Maybe it won't. I'm staying away from that number. I think there's just a little too much uncertainty, but I would lean over there, I think. Let's go ahead and move on to Denver. 45.5. That number's kind of interesting to me. Denver, they ended up winning 40 games last year. They're essentially saying that to go over, Denver would have to have a 6-win improvement there. That seems kind of high to me.
It's a little high.
I think that the reason that I think that number is a little bit high is that, like, are they essentially projecting 6 wins of defensive improvement from Paul Millsap as compared to Danilo Gallinari? Because, like, offensively, Gallo and Paul are pretty close. You know, like, you know, you might even be able to make an argument that Gallo might be better offensively.
I think that they're projecting big steps forward for both Jamal Murray and Gary Harris. And maybe I think that they're seeing the backcourt play, Murray, Moutier, Harris, Barton, as taking a leap of 3 or 4 wins collectively. And then
like Trey Lyles like helping maybe,
but you're getting something from power forward on both ends of the court this year, adding in a little bit of depth there that I'm not a Darrell Arthur fan or really a Kenneth Faried at this juncture in his career fan.
I think they're both solid rotation forwards.
Yeah, I'm just not the biggest fan of them. To be like, there's no deeper analysis than that. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I think that they expect Jokic to stay at the same level or get a little bit higher. I still think it's a high number. I think 45. I mean, 45 just based on, you know, going through the over under win totals here, that puts them firmly in the playoffs in the Western Conference. And I just don't see them as a playoff lock this year. So I would probably just straight up bet the under. It's a tight number. Don't get me wrong. I think that they're somewhere around 500, but 3 games over. That's really tough for me to go to that end. I think that's definitely on the right end of the bell curve. Maybe not at the bottom like Dallas's was, but I would just play the under on this one.
Yeah, I think that I am on like a pretty solid under here. I think that 46 wins is totally possible. Would not surprise me if this team won like 49 games. My thing is that they're projecting a rather large leap here in the improvement from Paul Millsap to Danilo Gallinari, which I think that Millsap is certainly much better than Gallinari, but I also think that the prognosticators have kind of underrated what Gallinari's impact on this offense was last year. His ability to space the floor and draw fouls and just get free points at the foul line essentially really helped their guards a lot. It really helped the offensive creation ability of their guards. And obviously Nikola Jokic helps with their guards. And, having Mason Plumlee off the bench now for a full year who can run those handoff plays, who can also really pass from the high post, that's going to help their guards a lot, and it's going to help them maintain continuity whenever they go to the bench. But they really do need one of Emmanuel Mudiay or Jamal Murray to take that next step forward and take that next leap up. I think to get to this level, and they're just both really young. They're both really young. So I think the number is close. Like if this number was 44.5 or 43.5.
If it was 43.5, I would stay away from it with reckless abandon. I might even lean over.
Yeah, but 45 seems a couple high to me.
Yeah, it's those few wins over and under 500 which are the hardest to get, and anything over you have to, especially one that's 3 games over, that you really have to look at this team, because you have to say it's more plausible that they're going to finish with 46 wins than 44, or anything under and anything over. And I just don't see that as a scenario.
Well, yeah, like here's the thing: if you win 46 games, that means you're 10 games over 500. That's a lot. Like that's a big jump, I think, for Denver next year, and it's possible, but I lean toward it just going slightly under. Like I think they're an above 500 team, but I don't know for sure that they're a playoff team yet.
I mean, I just think that they're a team that's going to fight for the 7 or the 8 seed, and this number, it gives me the indication. Though again, you look at it,
and they're one of my favorites for the 7 seed. I would say.
I think that's totally fair, but it depends. If you are certain that the Denver Nuggets are going to be the 7 seed or higher, you can feel free to either stay away from this number or even take the over. Yeah. If you are certain of it. I am not, so I'm just going to take the under. I feel far more confident taking the under on this one. Just as a team that hasn't done it yet, and while I think they absolutely could, I mean these numbers are set in a place for a reason. Every team could exceed them. Yeah. So I would. It's a good number, but I would go under.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's talk about your area team. You live up in the Bay Area now.
Yeah, thank you for the qualification there. That could have gotten interesting. Already, people in Cleveland think it's my team. So
no, definitely not your team. Your team is the Chicago Bulls. The delightful.
And they're terrible. What was the over under on Chicago? Do you have that? Reference?
I think it was like 22 or something, like 21.5. Yeah, I said under.
I mean, without Cameron Payne, how the hell is this supposed to work? By the way, nice column in The Athletic.
I do what I can to write about Cameron Payne.
You're the only one who doesn't slam their head on the keyboard writing about Cameron Payne.
67.5 for the Golden State Warriors. They won 67 last year, basically bringing the same team back this year, except with Omri Caspi and Nick Young.
Oh, they got better.
They got a little bit better. Yeah. What do you think?
The under.
Here? You think
this team is under? They could easily get the over, but they won't because they don't want it.
I was going to say, I don't know if they care.
They don't. I'm looking at the rest of these numbers here. I mean, the top contenders in the Western Conference, let's just say, let's go with 3-4 teams here. Houston, okay. Minnesota, yeah. San Antonio, yeah. Oklahoma City. Are any of those teams going to come close to getting 60 wins? I don't see 60. So that means 61 gets you home court advantage throughout. That's the number the Warriors are going for. Take the under.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't think San Antonio was a 61 team. Like, on true talent, I don't think San Antonio was a 61 win team last year. Yeah, I don't know.
They'll need someone to push them to get to this number because they know what happens when you go hard in the regular season. And last year, they had to try harder in the regular season because they wanted to establish chemistry and things. And with the way the injuries happened on that team, with Durant's injury, they really did have to win a lot of games, and they had to figure out what they had and what they didn't have, and that required them to play hard. They know exactly what they have going into this year. I mean, what they have to figure out how to get Omri Caspi, Nick Young, and Jordan Bell involved. Like, that's not something that play that's going to make Stephen Curry or Klay Thompson or Durant or Draymond or even JaVale play hard. So last year they had so much changeover, they had to win games in the regular season to establish the confidence that they could, do it again, even though it was pretty well implied by anyone who saw them play. This year, they absolutely have nothing to prove in the regular season. It is all about the postseason. They know it going in. No one will challenge their home court advantage. They might not even give a shit about home court advantage to begin with. 67 is, if they decided they wanted to win 74 games, they would have a good chance to do it. This is a superb basketball team, but no one's going to push them in the Western Conference, so they don't need to push themselves.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's my thing, I guess, here. I am not betting against this Golden State team not winning one more game than last year.
No, I get that.
You know what I mean?
They're definitely one win better than last year.
Yeah, like, I guess that, yes, I talk all the time about effort mattering. You know what I mean? Like, effort certainly is really important, especially in the regular season. But this is the team where I'm not sure it matters if they try or not. Like,
they can still win.
Yeah, like they can still just win games. I'm staying away from 67.5.
I wouldn't touch this. I would not touch this period. If you think it's a good number, don't come anywhere close to going over. There's just no benefit to be had for going over, because while effort is important and they can win without it, rest is really important too. And if Steph Curry tweaks his knee in game 20, they have the luxury of sitting him out until game 60 if they want, because they're so good. And with the NBA's new rest rules, they're going to have to come up with a plan for how they're going to handle making sure guys get adequate amount of rest in the regular season. I think they're probably going to go a bit overboard with it and really start from day one resting guys. And they're going to get away with it. And they're still going to win over 60 games.
Yeah.
But I just don't see them being higher than 65. I think that they could half-ass their way to 65 wins. But I don't even expect them to give half of an ass this regular season.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to care, but this team, I just refuse to bet against this team.
If Houston comes out of the gates blazing, and we can get right into Houston here, they're at 55. They're 55.5. If Houston comes out of the blades gazing, if they come out of the gates blazing, and it looks like, oh shit, this is a thing. Like this is happening. Like Houston. They were good last year, and they have taken a massive leap forward this year, which is not something I necessarily foresee. In fact, I see the opposite. But if that happens, then maybe the 67 comes into play. If San Antonio drastically exceeds last year's baseline and looks like the continuity was a benefit to them, and looks like they're a team that's going to contend for the 1 seed because they're the Spurs and that's what they do, then something might happen. If Oklahoma City is as good as I think they can be, then something might happen. But all three of those things happening at the same time might be necessary. Even two of those things is pretty implausible. So with Houston, I don't see them coming out of the gates heavy. I see the Chris Paul, James Harden thing.
Yeah, let's just move on to Houston real quick, because
I think it takes some time to gel.
Yeah, so I'm saying, like, stay away from Golden State. Dieter, I think, leans a little bit under, but Houston, I think, is kind of the driving point behind Golden State, which way you feel. I think that this number here, Houston is at 55.5.
Right.
They won 55 last year and went out and grabbed Chris Paul, which, most of the time you would think, hey, let's go over. Let's just jump.
Right. But who's his backup?
Well, they lose a lot of depth. Yeah, I think that that's kind of a big key here, especially when you're talking about regular season. They're certainly a much better playoff team than they would have been than they were last year.
No question.
I am a little bit more questionable on them early on in the regular season, because while I do believe that Chris Paul and James Harden are going to work really well together at some point, I am not sure it's going to be like a thing that works just, 5 days after.
It might work offensively fairly soon.
Yeah.
I think it can work offensively day one. I think defensively, this team is going to have a lot of problems, year to year. They were an average defensive team last year. I consider that a borderline miracle. Chris Paul is way too... Figuring him out, losing Patrick Beverley, there's two factors here. One, I don't think the defense is going... I think they're going to score a lot of points. I think they're going to give up a lot of points early and try to figure out their defense as the season goes along. Two, both Paul and Harden are guys who can sit out for 20 games in a year, if not more. Harden might be built like a tank, but he takes a lot of wear and tear throughout the year, and he's just one of those guys that you're kind of always cringing about. And we saw what happened, I think, last year when he played through an injury and how he fell off the end of the table. Paul, of course, we know his injury history. If they miss time, this team doesn't have the depth to be a 500 team with them out. So you have to err on that side when it comes to this number. 55.5 is a solid number in my opinion. I would lean under, but stay away from it.
Yeah, I'm staying away from 55.5. I think it might be a little bit high. So what I'm a little bit concerned about here is that later on in the year, Ryan Anderson really was not great.
Oh, no, he was very bad and unplayable in the fourth quarter when things mattered.
Right. And
but they got P.J. Tucker now, who's awesome.
Yes, and P.J. Tucker is really good. He's actually going to really help them kind of try and stem the tide defensively. Wins. And, Chris Paul is still like an NBA all-defensive team member. You know what I mean? Like, there is a lot
we've talked about the difference in Chris Paul to Patrick Beverley's defense. I don't know if Chris Paul's defense lends itself to the system that Houston runs, which Beverley, because he was get up in your grill as soon as you crossed half court, it was kind of like a Gegenpress, to use a soccer term, mentality, and it created a lot of opportunities that perhaps a poor defensive team shouldn't have created. Chris Paul's not going to do that. That's not his game. He's a cerebral lane, cutter sort of guy. He's going to outthink you on the court and is an exceptional defender. But I also don't think he's going to exert that level of energy for an entire 82-game stretch, whereas Patrick Beverley brought it every single night. That's why I don't think the defense is good early, and I think it takes them a long time to figure out how to get to league average.
One question I have here is, what do you think that Chris Paul does to their pace? Because, they were third in the NBA in pace last year. Mike D'Antoni obviously has a reputation for playing up-tempo basketball, getting out in transition. Chris Paul is a little bit more deliberate, despite his, I think that may be part of the point guard thing. Like, he is just a controller out there. He operates every single thing on the basketball floor. I wonder if the pace falls a little bit here. And
I think it goes down. I don't think it goes down by too much. I think that, one, Chris knew what he was getting himself into, and I think he'll relish the opportunity to go fast on offense, or faster than normal. I don't think they're going to build the offense around his sort of, put his hand up and call the play sort of point guard. I think especially, with them alternating, with him and Harden alternating main ball handler responsibilities and things like that. I think that it's going to be really fun to watch. I think it will drop, but I think it will be 5, 6, 7, 8 in the NBA. I don't think it's going to Mike D'Antoni team can't really play slow and be effective. But
that's kind of my question. Like, so if they do end up dropping a little bit, that means they're going to have to play a little bit more stout in the half court defensively. And
I don't think that they're going to be capable of doing that. I also don't think that Chris Paul is going to have the stamina necessarily to give you the high quality defensive minutes that are going to be required of him early on. Especially later on, perhaps. That's something to keep an eye on. He'll definitely pace himself. He's smart enough to do that.
Yeah.
But if he's going to be playing faster than he's ever played before, then, and I think that's a fair assumption.
Yeah, I think it is.
Then he's going to have to slack a little bit on the defensive end because he is a year older to, make sure he has the energy to get through an entire game. Yeah. The calculus changes in that regard. And, I have a very hard time seeing this team being league average in defense. I think that they will be markedly more efficient on the offensive end this year. I think that's a lock. I think that they're going to have the most efficient offense in the NBA, even more efficient than Golden State.
Yeah, but I think by the way, 114.7 offensive rating last year.
Yeah,
that's probably like top 25 ever. Like
it was one
NBA
of the best
history.
Ever. Yeah, it might even be higher than that. I think Houston has a real chance of being like 116, 117.
116 would be like league record, I think. Which I don't think that's like totally implausible.
It's not implausible. I mean, it's probably borderline hyperbolic, but at the same time, their defense is going to be easily 112, 113. I mean, I just don't see a scenario where they're not one of the 5 worst defenses, if not the single worst defense in the NBA between now and Christmas, when they probably find a way to make another move.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Los Angeles Clippers, the team that Chris Paul is coming from. Their number is 43.5. They won 51 last year, obviously. Totally different team this year, though. Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan are the centerpieces now. They do bring in Milos Teodosic. They bring in Danilo Gallinari. I am exceedingly skeptical of this number. They also bring in Patrick Beverley and Sam Decker and Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell, a bunch of rotation guys. I think it's worth noting them as well, but that's a lot, man. 43.5. It's not that they can't win that number, but oh man,
you hit the straight under. You hit the straight under on this because while I don't dislike this team. I actually kind of like it. And I
so here's my problem with
it. You go ahead. Go first.
My problem is going to be with this. You're betting on 2 things happening here.
Yeah. Okay.
You're betting on Blake Griffin staying healthy, and you're betting on the defense figuring itself out quickly.
Right. I can take that to another level.
That's a lot.
You're betting on Blake Griffin staying healthy, which, come on, that's not going to happen. And 2, you're betting on Doc Rivers suddenly turning into a good coach.
I mean, that take, but yeah.
Am I wrong? Like,
no.
You're giving Doc Rivers a bunch of guys who haven't played together yet, and you're expecting him to be the guy who makes it all gel? Like, give me a break.
I will say this. Doc, actually, if anyone has a reputation of getting a lot of different guys in together and getting them to gel quickly, it is Doc. Like, the way that he got that Boston team to gel quickly whenever they acquired Ray Allen, acquired Kevin Garnett, I think that team unity is not going to be a problem. The problem is that those pieces fit together on the floor.
You mean 3 Hall of Famers fit together well on the court?
Right, but I mean even in terms of the way that they play basketball is complementary of each other. On this team...
I don't understand this team.
Yeah.
Like, it could be super fun. But it is. I love Patrick Beverley. Patrick Beverley is a one-way player for you, even though he has a little bit of offensive upside. You know what he's getting. Whereas Milos is a one-way player. So whenever they're telegraphing what they're trying to do with whichever point guard's on the floor. Austin Rivers, despite what Bill Simmons might say, is still trash in my mind. Lou Williams is a one-way player.
I mean, like Austin Williams
got a little better.
Austin Rivers has turned into a solid bench
rotation player. Yes, he's an average rotation player. He is this team's starting shooting guard and will be unchallenged throughout the year.
Well, that's a problem too.
I guess they could play Beverly and Milos together, which would then create one point guard.
I think that's what they should do. I think that you basically have to play Beverly with Milos to protect him defensively.
I think that you're giving up a roster spot on the court in that scenario, and you might as well just play Austin to get some sort of balance.
But you're giving up a roster. You're giving up a spot with Milos on the floor defensively anyway,
and you're giving up a spot offensively with Beverly on the court. So I'm saying,
are you though? Like, he's not that bad defensively, or not that bad offensively.
No, but he's not somebody who is going to create. And that's what you need from a point guard. Who else on this team is going to
I think he's a 2. I play him at the 2.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I don't know that you need him to create. Like you say, hey, Pat, you've shot like 38% from 3 in your career.
Yeah.
If you can knock down
they're not going to leave
threes
wide
next
open
to Milos, like, that's fine.
Yeah. No, okay. But the bigger issues are this. Like, we don't know if Danilo Gallinari is going to have a healthy hand. We don't know if that's the case at all. I don't think you want to play Sam Decker serious minutes, even though I like Sam Decker. Blake Griffin is Blake Griffin. Is Willie Reed even going to play for this team? They have Marshall Plumlee behind him, and Montrezl Harrell. But the front court is what? Like, what the hell is going on in this front court?
So here's the thing. I think that under a different coach, this front court could work. The problem is that Doc Rivers is known to not stagger players.
No.
Like, you could do some pretty cool things with this front court, actually. Like, you could play DeAndre and Blake. You could play Blake and Danilo. You could play DeAndre and Danilo. You could play, like, a lot of really interesting little, like, you could play Sam Decker at the 4 and get some interesting stuff. Like, you could play super small and play, like, Harrell at the 5 as your backup 5. Like, I actually am interested in this front court.
If you had a good coach.
We have no indication that Doc Rivers is the guy that will handle it well. And again, like, I think Doc is probably a little bit overrated as a coach. I
hold him in very low esteem. So it's possible to overrate him in my.
I don't think he sucks, but like I think that
I think he's a bad coach.
Yeah, like the way that he utilizes rotations is problematic. I think, and that's going to be the downfall of this team.
He still thinks it's 1998 when it comes to positions. Like, the era is well over. I mean, he truly would be the perfect coach for the Orlando Magic, where every single player is position locked, because then he would never have to think about, if a guy can play wing. Like, I don't think he understands the term wing or big or handler. Like, if Brad Stevens were to have a conversation with him regarding, Brad Stevens's, depth chart and positions and things like that, I think
that Jackie Chan meme. Where, like, Jackie Chan's just, like, looking like what?
No. And like, the other thing on this, too, is I like Sindarius Thornwell. I thought he was an excellent player at South Carolina and had a really nice tournament and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that this team is going to need him to be, like, a damn good player, like a solid rotation player from day one. And while I think he can do that, that's a lot to put on, Sindarius Thornwell.
Is he? Because they have Lou Williams, too. They'll play Lou Williams and Rivers off the bench.
Yeah.
That's the thing, too. Like, and they have Wes Johnson.
They're going to get injured.
Well, they have Lou Williams, they have Wes Johnson, they have Austin Rivers, they have Beverly. Like,
they got a Wes Johnson anymore. I mean, he can go out there and stand, but I don't think very highly of Wes Johnson.
I don't know. Like, this is a...
Don't know either, which means play the under. If you don't know and we're saying above 500, you play the under straight
Especially in the West this year. Yeah.
No question. I mean, there's just so many ways this can go wrong, and like a very narrow band in which it can go right.
Yeah, I agree. Before we move on, Dieter, we have to pay some bills here. And that means that we're going to do a quick FanDuel ad. Fantasy football fans, the wait is nearly over. Football is back, which means FanDuel is back. Fantasy football for everyday fans. New contests starting every week. No busted seasons. That means you don't have to pick players at the start of the season. You pick them at the start of every week. That means that you can have a chance to win every week. There is something for everyone. There are a lot of different contests to choose from. They start at just $1, going all the way up into the hundreds. Just pick a contest, choose your team, and watch your score in real time. I'm excited to play fantasy football for the first time this year. I enjoy daily fantasy a lot more than I enjoy long-term fantasy. What about you, Dieter?
Yeah, I'm a terrible drafter. Big guy on the waiver wire in the long-term fantasy, which really only gets me about halfway to the goal that I want. But like being able to play week by week, that's huge. Just because I feel like I can pick some matchups on one given Sunday. But you want to extrapolate this thing out. I suck at the long con, so big time, and I can win some money. Whereas opposed, I just get to make fun of my friends from college with the other one.
Yeah, and that's always fun, but money is also great.
Listen, I already know they suck, so I don't need to.
Speaking of money, though, over 2.5 million players have won a cash prize playing fantasy sports on FanDuel. Sign up today. Go to FanDuel.com, click the Join Now button, and use my code GAMETHEORY. That's GAMETHEORY. Try FanDuel for free with no deposit required. Visit FanDuel.com to claim your free contest and play for a share of $10,000. Just sign up using the promo code GameTheory. That's FanDuel.com, promo code GameTheory, void where prohibited. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Lakers. The Lakers are at 33.5 as their number. The Los Angeles Lakers last year won 26 games, including a 4 or 5 game win streak at the end of the year to get them to that number. And
they had a stupid hot start, and they had a really great finish. And in between, they were probably the worst team in the NBA.
Yes, I think that's probably right. I think this number's high for a team that's
it's very high.
Going to be very, very dependent on a rookie point guard in Lonzo Ball, who I think everyone around the NBA is very excited about long term, but is still a rookie point guard in the NBA, and that's going to take time. They're very reliant on Brandon Ingram as well, when Ingram last year was still trying to figure out how to use his body. I think that probably extends into year 2 a little bit. What else do they have? They have Julius Randle, who I think you and I are a little bit higher on than most people. They have Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez. I
love Brook Lopez. He
can really help, but they don't really have anyone to insulate Brook defensively.
I mean, and Brook Lopez really brings that winning pedigree that you're looking for.
I love Brook. I'm not gonna hate on Brook as a player.
It's not Brook's fault. He's an all-time Nets legend, but Brook Lopez has clearly shown that he's not a guy who can turn a team around. That for sure is certain.
And they're gonna be one of the better offensive teams in the NBA, I think, this year.
Ooh, okay, that's a nice bold proclamation.
I'll say that they're gonna be a top 12 offensive team in the NBA, I think.
The top quarter or top third.
Yeah, top third offensive team in the NBA this year.
Okay, that's bold. I think they're top half, but top third is probably stretching it a little bit for me.
I think they're probably the worst defensive team in the league.
That's going to be difficult. I mean, Houston might give them a run for their money, but yeah, that's a fair bet.
I think Houston is.
Houston can clearly be better.
Houston might be way better than them defensively.
It might be way better, yeah. Well, yeah. Okay.
Clint Capella to Brook Lopez.
Yeah.
And then Chris Paul to Lonzo Ball.
I mean, Luke Richard-Mbah to Larry Nance in the backup 4. That's a pretty big jump right there.
Nance is good. I actually like Nance, but
I like Nance too. I don't see him as any sort of viable NBA defender.
He's useful because he's mobile. He's athletic. He's mobile. He can actually play on the perimeter a little bit defensively, which is nice. And Brandon can do the same thing. Ingram can move on the perimeter defensively. I am skeptical on how this team stops anyone at all.
Yeah, and my skepticism of Lonzo in general has been well documented. We don't have to go into it.
I think we're both skeptical of him to an extent.
Yeah, and I think to different degrees. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is a nice player, but they still have Jordan. They're still
their best defensive player.
Oh yeah, and he's slightly above average defensively.
Yeah, people get real excited about him defensively.
I've seen him in big. I've seen a couple of games. I'm a Kentavious Caldwell-Pope truther. I've seen him in a couple of games. He's been really good on ball. And you're oh, damn, this is happening. And he makes a bunch of threes, and you're like, it's happening. And then he plays the rest of the season.
That's the other thing I do want to bring up with him. The thing that could help the Lakers a little bit defensively is that he's really good at guarding point guards, too.
Yes.
He's really good at disrupting them at the point of attack. And you can slide Lonzo off a little bit. If I was the Lakers, though, I wouldn't be doing that. I would want Lonzo to get as much experience guarding ball screens as possible. Like, they're not making the playoffs this year regardless.
Right.
I would want Lonzo.
Don't tell Lakers fans, though.
Yeah, I mean, sorry.
But this is another reason why this number is high. There's going to be unfounded Lakers optimism, just like unfounded Cowboys optimism, even though they're pretty good, and unfounded Raiders optimism in betting circles. Like, there are certain teams that are going to mess it up. Like Conor McGregor's number on that fight was preposterously favorable because there was a bunch of dudes who actually buy Reebok stuff who thought that he was going to win because they're not based in reality. So neither was that fight, but point made. Like,
right.
I think Lakers fans push this number up probably 4-5 wins maybe. If this was at 28, I would say maybe stay away because I like Luke Walton. Like, and maybe those little flashes that they showed had something of merit. And Julius Randle's a nice player, and Brandon Ingram can't really get any worse. So
by expected win-loss last year on Basketball Reference, this was the worst team in the NBA last year.
Oh yeah, no, yeah,
like,
totally.
They made improvements, which I think is good. Like, they added actual NBA players in Brook Lopez and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Lonzo I think is going to help. Early.
They also got rid of a pretty, say what you will about Russell. Like,
right.
Russell was a player. Like,
right.
Russell provided value to that team. I'm not sure how much, and certainly they didn't see the long-term value compared to Lonzo Ball. But, like, yeah, it really does rely on Brandon Ingram, shooting better than 29% from three.
Yeah, 8 wins from last season is too big a jump for me.
Massive.
I'm gonna say under for the Lakers.
Hard under.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Lakers fans.
Don't worry, they're not based in reality.
Let's go on ahead and talk about the Grizzlies. Grizzlies 43-39 record last year. Over under this year down to 37.5. They lose Tony Allen, they lose Zach Randolph. They lose quite a few interesting pieces. They still
Can you lose Chandler Parsons if you never really had him, and he's still technically on your roster?
I'm very interested to see if Chandler can bring them anything this year.
Legitimate question: is JaMychal Green on that team?
Not yet. He's not under contract yet, but I would think
he'll just take his qualifying offer. Does he have one of those coming his way? What's up with JaMychal Green? Like, he's a restricted free agent, right?
Yeah, like him and Nikola Mirotic are in like a very weird spot right now, where no one really has the cap space to offer them. Yeah, but
JaMychal undrafted or a second-round pick? I need a full. I could Google this, but I'm just going to ask you. Like, what's the deal with JaMychal Green? Because he's a good player. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I think that JaMychal is actually also. I agree with you. I think JaMychal's a very useful player. Like, I think he's turned into an NBA starter. I will say that in the playoffs last year, it was a little bit tougher to keep him on the floor than I thought it would be.
Yeah, that's a accurate statement.
Yeah, and like, it's the Warriors, like, of course.
Everybody's.
Or no, they play the Warriors.
No,
they played San Antonio. I'm sorry, but like in San Antonio, you would think would be a relatively decent matchup for him.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, but what happened was he just got beasted by he got beasted by their big guys, and I don't know, like he's a weird player to evaluate because in the context of the modern NBA, you would think he would be a very useful player. Yeah. He can knock down shots from three at 38% from three last year on a decent number of attempts. He can hit mid-range shots. He's a good free throw shooter. A mobile defender who can,
and he's not like one of these like hyper stretch guys either. You look at him and you're like, he's not playing out of position at the four.
Right. So,
but then he plays out of position. It looks like he's playing out of position at the four when he goes up against San Antonio.
Like, I think I was surprised that no one prioritized getting him this summer and offer sheeting him.
It was also the one-hit wonder. That's the other thing too. There's going to be a baseline skepticism.
Yeah, but like James Johnson got $15 million last year, and James Johnson
because Miami didn't know what it was doing. Miami just decided to double down on a team that's going to go less than 500. That was the one thing I disagreed upon with the Eastern Conference ones. I would take a hard Miami under.
Oh no, I think Miami. I mean, I guess my thing with Miami is like I know that they will try and they will want to be good, and I actually like the talent on that team, and I like Spoelstra as a coach. But yeah, I understand the skepticism.
You're expecting Justice Winslow to be a player, and I gave up on that.
I think he's a rotation player for sure, and getting another rotation player for 70 extra games is useful. But this is not Miami. We're not going to talk about Miami.
Sorry.
And we've probably spent too much time with Michael Green. I would imagine he will be playing in Memphis next year, just because no one can really offer him money right now.
Okay, so here's my thought when it comes to Memphis. 37.5 is a solid number. I can see why it's there. This is not based in any rationality, but I would probably stay away from it, but lean over, just because they still have Mike Conley, and they still have Marc Gasol, and Mike Conley and Marc Gasol make the playoffs every year. And maybe this is the year that breaks, but sometimes you just got to bet with history.
Yeah, look, I think that a lot of people are putting a lot of stock in them losing what used to be the identity of their team, right? By losing Zach Randolph, losing Tony Allen.
You saw that changing last year, though. The entire,
that's the thing.
But last season was that transition.
I think that perception-wise, though, that's why people are a little bit more down on them than what we've seen in the past. Also, by the way, Zach Randolph, true shooting percentage, it was 6 points under league average last year.
Yeah, he was garbage.
Tony Allen, 6-point true shooting percentage below league average last year.
I'm shocked it was only 6.
Yeah, Tony does a decent job of staying within himself offensively.
Yeah.
But he
did last year, and he was still bad.
Yeah, he's just not an efficient offensive player. And, maybe this year things are a little bit more offensive. Maybe they, under David Fizdale, try and get out and move a little bit more.
Right.
If Chandler Parsons is healthy, maybe that could be a thing.
That is a thing. I also look at this team and I see upside in a couple of spots here. I see Andrew Harrison, a lot of upside there. I like Kobe Simmons. I don't know if it happens this year, but there's a lot of upside there.
You're in an interesting boat if you're betting on Kobe Simmons. I will say
I'm not betting on him. I'm just saying that there are players on this roster that can
over under 50 NBA minutes for Kobe Simmons this year.
Ooh. I mean, I'll just take the over. He's too talented. He's too talented. I mean, you're probably right, but damn it, let me believe.
So Mike
Dennis gives you a chance, and I think Ivan Rabb has a chance to give be a contributor on this team halfway through the season and beyond. So
they also
there's
have Deontay
upside.
Davis. They have other big. Right. They have Jarrell Martin, who's a former first-round pick. Maybe he becomes something. It's an unknown team off the bench this year.
Maybe Ben McLemore turns into a basketball player.
Which what? In a capable offensive scheme where coaches aren't changing every year.
Yeah.
If he turned into a guy that is, substandard defensively but can give you an efficient 10 a night, I would not be surprised.
Say what you will about Tyreek Evans. Is he ever going to reach the level of expectation that we had after he sort of flukishly won Rookie of the Year? Hell no. But, he's not a bad player.
He's playing in front of his, college town at least. And I think they embraced him, so maybe he gets a little bump there.
Yeah, I mean, there's not, I can understand the pessimism. It's a big change. But, last year was the most difficult year of this. And while this roster, I think, has gotten a little bit worse, I do see a lot of upside on it.
It's gotten a little bit more athletic.
It's gotten a little bit, it's more capable of playing the way that you should be playing right now. Not to, put platitudes on this, but, 37.5 that's a pretty big drop from where they were last year, and I just don't see this team dropping that much.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and say I like the over for Memphis. You know what? I'm going to bet on this team until they show me a reason not to bet on them. Mike Conley and Marc Gasol are really good. They're probably two of the top 25 players in the league, and if you can get money on two of the top 25 players in the league finishing 4 games below 500.
Take it.
Or, I guess, 6 games below 500.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I think that's a decent bet.
Now, listen, if either of those guys get injured, all bets are off. But that we're presuming health in this case, much as we are not presuming it for the Los Angeles Clippers. And I just think it's too big of a drop. It's overly pessimistic. And while I might be the most pessimistic person who's ever been on this podcast, I still think that this is too much.
Yeah.
So hit the over.
The Minnesota Timberwolves 48.5.
Under. Under it's so hard. Oh my God. Run to. I would get on a plane, fly to a place that fly to Vegas, fly even to England, fly somewhere, and just hit this under all day, every day.
They are projecting an 18-win bump. Jimmy Butler is great. He is a top 10 player in the league, in my opinion.
Jimmy Butler, perennial MVP candidate.
Jimmy Butler is not worth 18 NBA wins. And
Karl Anthony Towns was awesome last year. It's not as if he can get better, but not 18 wins better.
Yeah, and
not
Andrew
even
Wiggins.
5 wins better. Is Jeff Teague worth 5 wins? Is Andrew Wiggins going to get 5 wins better?
Is Jeff Teague better than Ricky Rubio?
I mean, yeah, it's probably a net zero. It's a win or 2 at its most optimistic. Andrew Wiggins is a win or 2 better at its most optimistic. Jimmy Butler's probably a 5-win player, but right now we're at 7, 8. Karl Anthony Towns, is he going to get 10 wins better? Because that's what you're saying is going to happen. That Karl Anthony Towns is going to average 40, 20, and have 10 assists a game. Because that's 10 wins.
It's so high. I think Minnesota's a playoff team. I would say they're probably the 5 or 6 seed. Yeah, maybe not the 5.
No, because
they're the 6.
Right now, as it's slated out with 48 wins, 67 for the Warriors, 55 for Houston, San Antonio's above them, Oklahoma City's above them. So they're pegged as the 5th seed. Come on.
That's a lot.
That's. Listen, this team was not good defensively last year. I know it's Tibbs, but this team did not take to Tibbs' system. Also, Tibbs' system might be a little bit outdated now. He hasn't really adapted it that much. He also runs his guys into the court. So, while I know Jimmy Butler can hang with it, we'll see how that works. I don't think that Taj Gibson should be getting serious minutes on an NBA contender. I think he's a nice, solid rotation player who can give you 10 to 15 a night, but he's going to be. It looks like he's going to be getting 25, even maybe 30 a night for this team.
So to be a 49-win team, the Timberwolves would need to jump from 4th to last in defensive rating.
Yeah.
To what? They'd probably need to go
top 10
to maybe not that high if the offense is as good as we think it can be.
Well, what were they offensively last year? What
they
was
were
their
10th.
Efficient?
So
they were 10th in offense. They'll probably be 5th or 6th in offense this year. I can't. First off, I don't see Wiggins and Butler meshing immediately. Their game is far too similar.
Yeah.
And that makes it difficult. I think
and they have to integrate a new point guard.
Right. Let's just go through the number 2.
They have to be probably a top 15 defense in the league, top 17 defense in the league.
Let's just presume that they're going to start Wiggins at shooting guard, which whatever. Their starting lineup is Jeff Teague, Andrew Wiggins, Jimmy Butler, Taj Gibson or Gorgie Dang, and Karl Anthony Towns. Let's just say it's Dang. So Towns, Dang, Butler, Wiggins, Teague. I like it. That's pretty good. Let's go over the backups now. It's bad. Tyus Jones or Melo Trimble, Jamal Crawford, Nemanja Bjelica. How do I pronounce that? Bjelica, sorry. Gibson, and Cole Aldrich. That's your second unit. So, right. Yeah, I think that Jimmy Butler is going to be playing 43, 44 minutes a game.
Yeah.
It's way too high. Just hit the under all day, every day.
It's too high.
Let's move on.
I think it's too much.
I think they make the playoffs, but they make the playoffs as a 7 or 8 seed. And
but this is what they did last year with Minnesota too. Everyone way over projected them based on internal development, and that's not the way. I don't think that's the way that
they're doubling down.
goes.
They're doubling down.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's move on.
Yeah,
because I like Minnesota. I like that group.
Yeah, I don't want to slander them anymore, but they're just not gonna. They're not gonna come close to winning 50 games this year. That's just not happening.
That's a lot. To me, that's a lot. New Orleans, 39.5. They're projecting this team to go damn near 500.
Yeah, with all two of their wings.
Yeah,
I mean they're gonna. Okay, here's how
they're gonna go out and sign a couple because trading Quincy Pondexter and his $3.8 million allows them to go get 2 now.
Yeah, great, because that market is so robust at this juncture.
Yeah, not great.
I mean, they
not so hot.
Right now they're going to be giving Ian Clark like 25, 30 minutes a game. I love Ian Clark. No.
So really, like, what is their starting lineup right now? Like, is each one more?
Four centers and Rajon Rondo. No, it's
Rondo,
their starting lineup
Drew Holiday,
would be, right. Each one more at the 3, or Jordan Crawford at the 3. Each one more, or Jordan Crawford, because Solomon Hill's still injured, right?
Yeah, Solomon Hill's going to be out for like 5 months probably.
He's not a person. He doesn't exist in this dimension. So it's each one more, or Jordan Crawford. So it's probably more. Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins. Now, listen, I'm not a big fan of Drew Holiday playing, the 2 full time or whatever.
We've talked about that. That's not
whatever. Great. That's a pretty damn good starting lineup, though. And then I think it comes off the rails in Minnesota. This is like a D-League lineup, legitimately.
So here is my question. I mean, like, are they just going to have Drew guard 2s full time?
It's not going to work, I guess.
Like, Drew's really good Drew's a very versatile and good defender.
On 1s.
I think he can switch on to 2s and be useful.
But you can't have him primarily as the 2, and this is also a team that's not necessarily going to be capable of switching as much because Moore has to play the 3, and you have 2 big guys. And while DeMarcus and Anthony are incredible talents, and Anthony's a defensive player of the year, like you don't want them having to rotate down to 2s and 3s. You want them to be patrolling the lane and stuff. And DeMarcus specifically isn't somebody that you want to make a defensive fulcrum. So
and look, like, this team finished 9th in defensive rating last year, but they also added now DeMarcus Cousins and Rajon Rondo for full years, and that's going to make them much less mobile defensively, and they lose their most versatile defender in Solomon Hill. I don't know how this team is going to stop anyone. I just don't. You and I have discussed this before. I see this thing blowing up in a very big way.
Like, I don't think Alvin Gentry makes it to Christmas. I don't think that DeMarcus Cousins ends the year on the Pelicans. I think that Anthony Davis trade rumors are hot and heavy by February. This team is just... It's general manager malpractice for a team to be this poorly built going into the season.
Yeah.
To spend money on Rajon Rondo. Listen, it made all the sense in the world to sign Drew Holiday. I get it. And I think Ian Clark was a nice pickup late in everything. And we'll see what they do now that they have a little bit of space to sign a wing or two.
Let's talk about this too. Their bench now is Ian Clark. It's Darius Miller, who was in Germany last year and was good in Germany, but was in
Alexis
Germany last year.
Omer Asik, who's not going to get stretched because it's that bad.
Jordan Crawford, a Schick, a Jinsa,
check Diallo.
Do they have they don't really even have a combo forward here anymore.
No, they literally have
play
they
small,
literally have 2 wings. Period. They don't have and frankly, they have 3. They're going to start a point guard at shooting guard, and then they have 2 backup shooting guards that are going to have to play small forward.
This roster hurts my brain.
It's very, very bad, and it's going to blow up. And I think 39, I think, is even a pessimistic number considering how, they have Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah.
39 is you look at those 2 guys and you're like, oh, that should be a 500 team, right? No, it shouldn't be. And frankly...
And Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday's really good.
Yeah. Those 3 guys, if this was, NBA Street, that would be one of the first picks but it isn't. You need to have, at least 9 good players, and they have 4. it's not under hard.
I liked the way that Jared Weiss put it to me on the Monday podcast. If your season is reliant on Solomon Hill not getting hurt, then you probably did not have a great team to begin with.
No.
Because that's what happened. Like, Solomon Hill's out now, and this team is in a lot of trouble.
It's not like Solomon Hill is going to change this team that much, but he was a player who could be league average maybe, and that is a dramatic upgrade.
Yeah, like, he was a significant part of why people thought defensively Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins could work, because he was so mobile, he was big enough, he was versatile enough to where they could kind of operate some switch situations,
right?
Even while playing 2 point guards. That's the thing; they're playing 2 point guards and 2 true bigs. It's really hard to switch when you're playing that.
You need to have the goddamn pivot guy. Like, yeah, no, that makes sense. You're playing 2 point guards and 2 centers. And you don't have a small forward. Like, if it wasn't so sad, it'd be hilarious.
It's a little bit funny.
It's still pretty funny. Yeah. Either the Pelicans will break basketball positions as we know it and redefine how you play the modern game, or they're gonna finish with fewer than 39 wins. And I don't think that this team's revolutionary, except in its failure. So I'd hit the under pretty hard.
Yeah. Oklahoma City 51.5. I think this number is just basically right on. Like, maybe a little bit low. Like, I can see maybe, man, that's a 5-win jump though. Paul George is probably worth 5 wins.
Yep.
I'm staying away. I'm going to be happy staying away from this. I want to see how they play first.
Yeah. That's fair.
Also, like, sneaky thing, Russell Westbrook still has not accepted his extension. If he doesn't accept his extension,
does he get traded?
Do they kind of look at maybe moving him?
Yeah, okay, that's fair. That is something to keep in mind. Because right now I look at this roster and I see a team that's going to win more than 52 games. Period. I love this roster. I think this is the second best team in the Western Conference. I might be a lunatic person. I think this is the second best team in the Western Conference. And while all of the things that you said make perfect sense to me in my mind, I had this team pegged at 55 wins.
I think talent-wise, you're probably right.
There's a lot of other shit going on. There's no doubt. But I had this team pegged at 55 wins, and they gave me 51.5, and I'm taking the over.
I might take Houston over them talent-wise.
Okay. Well, Houston is at 55 wins. So
yeah, I probably would take Houston over them talent-wise.
And I took Houston under. Talent-wise, okay, yeah. I mean, in the playoffs, different conversation. Over an 82-game stretch, I think Oklahoma City wins more games than Houston, and there's a 4-game gap in these over-unders. I'm leaning under on Houston, probably hitting the under on Houston, and I'm going over on Oklahoma City, and it's a strong over.
If Russ was to sign his extension, I would probably take the over.
I'm willing.
I think they probably keep him throughout the year, but like,
I just don't think you can get anything of value for him. This is a team that is, first off, I think this is a team, and we've talked about this before, that I think gives
I'll make an argument in a second, but go ahead.
I think this is the team that gives Golden State the most trouble. And I think that seeing that on the court, I don't know when they play, but when that is shown, or when it becomes clear that that's the scenario, that this team, more so than Houston, more so than San Antonio, is the one that could actually give the Warriors a run in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
Even if Russell Westbrook doesn't sign, I don't think they give that up.
Okay, here's going to be my question here.
Yeah.
So, say Cleveland offers you that Brooklyn pick and like salary filler for half a year of Russell Westbrook after Russ tells you he's not signing the extension.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a tough offer to pass up for half a year of Russ.
It very well is. I'm willing to
I guess part of this is too, like, if they're a middling team, let's say that they're on pace.
Yeah,
for
maybe
like
they
50
start
wins.
slow.
You know,
There's a lot of ways this could go wrong. But we kind of said that that's how Oklahoma City operates. It's always about to go wrong.
But the thing is, though, outside of the Kevin Durant decision, they always trade guys before they come up. And maybe Russ is another outlier just because he's so goddamn good. But, like, their history is trading guys before they lose them for nothing.
I just think that the last 12, 13 months and all of that loyalty bullshit and, you know, just the constant beratement of PR nonsense that's come out of that fucking place is going to play a big factor. I think that Oklahoma City would rather let him walk. And while I don't disagree with you that offer would be immense, one, would Kobe Simmons do it? I'm sorry. Would Cleveland do it, period? Because Kobe Altman, thank you. Would they do it, period, because they also still have no idea what's going on with LeBron. And for, half a season of rust, okay, sure, that makes sense. And then you try to re-sign him, all this stuff if LeBron stays.
Well,
but
I think
the big thing was they got that pick so that they had, you know, a future beyond when Kevin Love and then, you know, Kyrie Irving's contracts were up. That they both, you know, quasi-fortified in the present and gave themselves, you know, a good situation for the future so that they don't have to immediately tank. I think that pick is far too valuable for Cleveland, not knowing what LeBron's going to do until, you know, next July, for them to give up for half a year of what? And it's not like you're bringing in Chris Paul. You're bringing in Russell Westbrook, who's probably not going to mesh immediately, is as headstrong as anyone in the NBA has ever been. And there's a reason he wears Jordan shoes. And, you know, it would almost probably be better used on a guy like Paul George. But
well, look,
I see what you're saying, but I just don't think that. I think that they would rather have this team implode on them and rebuild from, you know, a place of, you know, pretend moral high ground than get ahead of it, because I don't think there's going to be good enough offers for, you know, sort of the PR hit that they would have to take.
Yeah, and it's hard to break up a 50-win team, like, in the middle of the season.
Especially one that I honestly think, if it gets it together, gives the Thunder the best chance of anybody in the Western Conference to beat the Warriors. Doesn't matter what they do in the regular season. If they play the Warriors in a 7-game series, I think that's as far as the Warriors get pushed. I don't think it beats them, but I think it could beat them. And I don't that there's any other team in the Western Conference right now that can make that same claim.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think
I would hit the over. But it is definitely an interesting concept with Westbrook's contract situation. I'm sure that will never be discussed again on this podcast.
Yeah, let me tell you. Well, I hope to be honest, I hope he signs the extension and stays in Oklahoma City, because I find that story awesome. And I find Russ in general to be an incredibly engaging personality. But I would like to see him stay in Oklahoma City, but it's a story until he signs.
No question. No question at all. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I ultimately think that he's not going anywhere until his contract expires.
Let's move on. Phoenix, this number is 28.5.
It's a weird number.
They're expecting Phoenix to get 5 wins better to go over on this number.
Yeah, but Devin Booker's so good, Sam.
Did you know that Devin Booker scored 70 points in a basketball game?
No, I haven't read my mentions in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Thanks, guys. I had no idea. So, for them to win 5 more games than they won last year. I mean, like, Devin Booker would need to become, like, one of the 5 best scorers in the NBA.
Not implausible. But it's out there.
Yeah, I think it's out there. In his third year, I think, like, his ceiling is probably that. But, like, in his third year, I think it's pretty out there. They would need Eric Bledsoe to stay relatively healthy again.
Sure.
They would need leaps from Marquise Chris and Dragan Bender, and they would need Josh Jackson to be like an NBA starter from day one.
Nope, and nope.
Yeah, 29. Them winning 29 games is a lot.
It's you hit the under on this straight up.
Yeah, I think this is an under.
I just don't. Okay, yeah, Josh Jackson can't shoot. I like Josh Jackson. He's like a grenade on the basketball court. I enjoy watching him play.
That's really a perfect way to describe him.
He is not a positive impact player for this team right now. They definitely don't have the pieces around him to sort of, funnel that explosion into good areas and prevent it from, bringing on collateral damage in other areas. So that's just not happening. I'm out on Bender. I'm out. I was all in. I'm all out now. I will take all of my losses, all of my licks. Feel free to ridicule me as much as you want. The kid doesn't have it.
Here's what I'll say. Like, I don't know if I'm out on him long term, but he's still one of the youngest players in the NBA. Like, it's going to take time. Like, he is still 19 years old right now, entering game 2 or entering season 2.
He does not have the athleticism necessary to do what he would have had. His band of player has to do. He doesn't have it. Maybe he was harboring some injury in summer league. That's not my understanding. You would know better than I. I'm out on Bender. I don't see it happening. He can maybe turn into a solid backup 4 or 5 guy, a rotation player, a little spark plug off the bench, but he is not going to be the player that he was expected to be now or in the future. That's my stance on that. Brandon Knight is out for the entire year after tearing his ACL. I don't think he would have changed this formula that much anyway, but now it's just Devin Booker. And did they? I mean, I think this is only going to embolden his worst instincts on the court. That he's pretty much, unless Bledsoe can give you a full season, he's pretty much their only offensive threat.
And unless Bledsoe, do you think Bledsoe's on this team at the end of the year?
Not even close. No, they benched his ass at the end of the year. Clearly him and Earl Watson don't get along. Him and the organization have been at odds longer than just last year. This dude's getting traded. And I think this team comes out of the gate ice cold, wins 1 out of its first, 12 or 13 games, and Bledsoe's gone. And probably Tyson Chandler right after him. And then we get to watch Dragan Bender and Marquise Chris be a front court for the entire year.
It was kind of weird that they just flat out benched Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah, a lot of good that did, because they ended up with a guy who isn't going to provide them immediate positive impact. I think Josh Jackson's is a nice project long term.
I like how they sold it on our sports science people said that he should sit the rest of the year. But
give me a fucking break. Your sports science. They watched ESPN's John Brinkus and decided that was their sports science. Give me a break. I know that they literally cashed in all of their chips on Phoenix Suns' best training staff in the NBA on that bullshit.
Yeah, that was a weird situation. I'm saying under.
Their own credit, it's got to be an under. They're not coming close to contending for 30 wins this year. This is the team that will have the most. This is the team that will probably have the most ping pong balls
in the West. I think the team that'll be the worst in the West.
maybe Chicago gives them a run. Oh my god.
And Atlanta. I'm so sorry.
1993 NBA Finals. Where are we now?
Portland, 42.5 is their number. They won 41 last year. This number seems pretty much dead on to me.
Yeah, that's spot on. You don't touch this. I mean, with Nurkic, it could be on the upside.
It could also be on the downside if he's not nearly as good as what we think.
Right. Then you're playing Myers Leonard for significant minutes and expecting Zach Collins to provide you, Zach Collins, Noah Vonleh, and Caleb Swanigan to provide rock-solid minutes.
They get Ed Davis back, too. Ed Davis is useful.
I like Ed Davis. You're right. But now, they're going to give, I think, Pat Connaughton's going to get more time. Evan Turner is somehow going to get more time. It's just Mo Harkless and Jake Layman at the 3. Al-Farouq Aminu, I ride with Al-Farouq, but man, that's tough.
They played ET at the 3 a decent amount last year too.
Yeah. So I mean, They have the pieces. I don't think losing Alan Crabb for nothing effectively really helps. Does. Yeah, it probably helps.
Well, I don't think it helps. I flat out do not think it helps at all.
No, it does. I mean, yeah. Listen. I think
it's actually a problem, to be honest.
Yeah, because I think between him and Mo Harkless, I think I would rather have Alan Crabb. But okay, so you still have Lillard, you still have McCollum. Nurkic really did show a lot of upside for this team last year, and they played a lot better when he was in there. If you got those three guys and you can get something from the 3 and the 4 spots, that's at least league average. And I think Evan Turner has that capability in him, and I think that you can play Harkless at the 4, maybe more than Aminu. And maybe Vonleh takes a step forward, and maybe Collins is good enough to play in the NBA right now, and maybe Ed Davis is a solid backup 5. 42 is spot on. If I had to lean, I'd say under, actually, but 42 is about as good as you're going to get as a number.
Yeah, I think it's dead on, to be honest. Like, I just flat out think it's dead on for all the reasons that you just said. This is like one of those teams where I don't really have like a lot of strong takes.
Yeah. Because there's nothing strong about them. They are a perennial 500 team, and it's sad because they have, arguably one of the best backcourts in the NBA. But it doesn't fit together great at 3, 4, and 5. And maybe the 5 is solidified this year. Maybe. I need to see that over a 60, 70, 80 game stretch. But this is a team that there's a reason that number's at 42. You can lock it in every year.
Yeah, I mean, given the way this roster is constructed, I think it's pretty much right on. Like over the last 2 years, they've won 41 and 46 games, going backward. Yeah, I mean that's fine. I don't really want to belabor Portland because I think that they're just gonna be taking time to figure some things out. Yep. Let's go on ahead and move on to Sacramento. Sacramento, 28.5 is this number.
Mm-hmm. This is tough.
I think they're better than Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
I will
but
say
Phoenix is drastically over. Like, that's a hard under. Like, Phoenix is around 22, 23 in my mind.
Yeah, like having like Buddy Hield and George Hill and Willie Cauley-Stein. Like having I shit on Zach Randolph a little bit during the Memphis side, but like having Zach Randolph helps.
Vince Carter is not a bad player.
Right. Like Vince Carter is fine. Getting Bogdan, who just balled out this morning for Serbia, is going to be really helpful. He is an immediate NBA rotation player, I think.
Yeah. Like, I don't think this is a playoff team, but I'd hit the over on this.
I think 28.5 is pretty close. I think I'm staying away.
Yeah, I can see. I had him pegged at like 30, 31.
Yeah, I can see 31. I think that's
that's 3 wins. That's enough for me to hit a good over.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very hard time seeing them being one of the worst. Putting them and Phoenix at the same number just doesn't make sense to me. I get it. I love De'Aaron Fox though. I even like
Garrett Temple. Like Temple's useful.
Yeah, like there's just nobody. Listen, Scal looked really good at the end of last year.
Yeah.
I think Harry Giles has upside. I don't know if they play him this year or not, but man, what a great pick that was. I think Willie Cauley-Stein will. He looked a lot better once DeMarcus got out of there, and I don't think Georgios doesn't deserve an NBA roster spot, but like this is a team that can win 30 games or more.
So here's another interesting kind of point about this. Phoenix tends to draft exceedingly young. Like Tyler Ulis was like 19 or 20 when they drafted him. Devin Booker was 18. Marquise Chris was 19. Dragan Bender was 18. You look at who Sacramento has drafted / brought in. Like Buddy Hield is, he was not drafted by them, but they picked him up as a rookie. Older rookie, going to be 24 in December. Justin Jackson is already 22 years old. Yeah. Bogdan Bogdanovic is coming into the NBA at 25. Willie Cauley-Stein, they drafted him at like 21 or 22. He's already 24 now.
So you miss a lot of upside on these guys because they're they just don't have as
case,
much room to develop. But like,
they're a little bit more ready to play, I think, than some
totally.
of the rookies and second-year players for Phoenix outside of Devin Booker, who just hit.
Right. Totally agree. So I'm hitting the over on this. I can see why you would say solid. Just play it right down the middle there. But
yeah,
I'm going to hit the over. I'm going to buy into the optimism.
Yeah, I don't think that's a terrible idea.
I also want a reason to I
watch
can't get
Sacramento.
Yeah, I can't get Warriors tickets for my girlfriend who's a big basketball fan, and like because the Warriors cost $200. So like I would like to be able to take my girl to a game that's not Cal or St. Mary's, even though St. Mary's is going to be good this year. And like it takes an hour to get to Sacramento from my place in Oakland. I would like a reason to go to the Golden One Center this year. So let me be optimistic for a minute in my life.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Let's talk about San Antonio. 54.5 is this number. They won 61 games last year in what, for my money, is maybe the most impressive regular season coaching job of Greg Popovich's career, which is saying a lot. But this team had the number one defense in the entire NBA when it started Pau Gasol and played David Lee significant minutes.
Yeah, it did.
And played Davis Bertans off the bench.
And played Tony Parker at all.
Played Kyle Anderson off the bench. Played Tony Parker significant minutes.
Yeah.
LaMarcus Aldridge is fading a little bit defensively.
You think?
Yeah. How this team was the number one defense in the entire NBA, I will never fathom. I have no idea how it happened.
Let me say this. That's not going to happen again this year.
I tend to agree.
They will still be very good better than they should be defensively because it's Pop. This is a really difficult number, though, 54.5, because as we mentioned earlier, this team exceeded what it should have done last year. 61 was an outlier on their chart. And they're probably around 55, 56 year in, year out. So 54.5, given just regression, it's really tough, especially when you're going to be giving DeJounte Murray and Patty Mills pretty much all of your point guard run for maybe the entire regular season.
Yeah, a question here is, how much do they play Manu? Manu can really help them at the point guard spot, I think.
It's out.
Can Rudy Gay play?
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah,
if I don't know.
Gay can play, I think that's a real positive because now it allows you to play either Pau at the 5 without feeling so weird about it, or LaMarcus at the 5, and
Yeah, look, to be honest, I just don't feel comfortable betting under on San Antonio, but I also don't feel super comfortable betting on a team whose third best player is probably Danny Green.
Yeah.
To get over 35 or to get over 55 wins.
Now, here's something that's going to happen. Bryn Forbes is going to turn out to be really good all of a sudden.
Yeah,
and they're going to find a way to make Joffrey Laverne good. They're the New England Patriots of the NBA.
And Derek White's going to play immediately and be really good.
Yeah, so that's all going to happen. It's a given. I don't know how much more Kawhi Leonard can get better, and I think that's where I have, for all the downsides that I see on this roster, I see, all these upsides, and I almost take them for granted. But, can Kawhi take another step forward? And he's done it every year in his career. He's gotten a bit better. But, last year he was 25 points per game.
Well, where the big step forward for him would be?
3-point shooting percentage?
No, I think that's fine. He's an elite shooter. If he could really become a better passer and really create for others a little bit more.
I mean, he averaged one more assist per game last year, but it's still at only 3.5 per game.
Right, among the hyper-elite NBA players that play on the perimeter, he's probably the worst playmaker out of those guys. Right?
Now, they don't... Yeah, they didn't need him to be a playmaker up until this point. I mean, that system is built in such a way. But let's also establish, while he had 3.5 assists last year, which isn't anything to note of, hey, that's really good.
Yeah,
it's better than he had.
I say that other thing,
2.1 turnovers per game.
Yeah, like as I say that other thing too, like I consider Kawhi Leonard to be one of the 5 best players in the league.
Oh, no question.
I'm just also saying, like, if he could really develop as a playmaker for others, and he could occasionally bring the ball up the floor and initiate offense, and
then he'd be a perfect basketball player.
You know, do a little bit more drive and kick, do a little bit more getting the defense to collapse around him, and finding more open shots. Yeah. I think that would be really useful. And I'm not saying that, like I said, like Kawhi is bad at something. He's just not as good at it as other average NBA players.
He's an average playmaker. He is an exceptional player at pretty much everything else. I still think there can be an uptick in three-point shooting. He's never going to get back to like 44% like he did in 15-16. But, if he can get that over 40%, if he can get, let's just put it at 5 assists per game. He doesn't have to be LeBron, but let's say 5 assists per game with the same 2 turnovers a game. Then I think he's pretty much the best player in the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just do that. And then I'm willing to, if you could tell me for certain Kawhi's going to do that, I'll take the over. But until I see it happen, I'd rather just live with that regret. Because, again, I have no idea how he keeps doing it, how he keeps getting better, but I imagine that there's going to be a plateau at some point, even though he's 26 years old. Jesus Christ.
I will say this. He is 6.5 to 1 to win MVP this year.
Oh, that's a good number.
Kind of like that number, yeah. I'm kind of in on it. He's going to have the opportunity to even take a bigger role in the offense.
Yeah. If Kawhi is in the MVP, like, Kawhi's always going to be in the MVP discussion. He has a real chance if he does what I just said. Like, if he does that, it's no doubt. Like, period. Like, he is the surefire NBA MVP. So, like, not even LeBron, who is always going to be, well, yeah. What's LeBron's number at? Do you have that in front of you?
Give me a second here. LeBron is
like probably 3 to 1.
I think LeBron is actually a little bit lower. I think he's like at 750 or something.
Oh, damn. Because without Kyrie there, LeBron's going to be running a lot more point guard.
Here, go talk real quick about something.
Yeah, okay, but like
you can go on a rant about whatever you want. I give you the floor.
Okay, well, that was a dangerous thing to do, but essentially, we've seen Kawhi over the last three seasons. Now, going into this 4th season since he won finals, 4 seasons since he won finals MVP, but the last 3 seasons following that, age 23, 24, 25, him go from 16 points a game to 25 points per game. I don't know if Kawhi, I suppose Kawhi Leonard will have the opportunity this year to get close to 30 points per game. If he does that with any uptick in efficiency and any uptick at all in playmaking ability, both of which, the efficiency, I'm not sure if that's something that is necessary because he will get more opportunities. I think he will shoot 20 times a game, 3 or 4 more times a game than he did last year. Probably get an extra 3-point shot or 2 compared to last year. But if he can add in that playmaking ability, as Sam alluded to, as I said, I think will be necessary this season. This is a guy who had 13 win shares last year. He had a PER of 27. And when you think about that, I mean, we're now talking hyper-elite, all-time great stratosphere at his prime season of age 27. And sure as shit, no one saw that coming, when he was drafted. Not even the Spurs. And he got picked 15th by the Pacers and traded. But, like, this guy is only a 2-time All-Star. And we're talking now, if he continues to progress the way he has over the last 3-4 years, now we're talking about all-time greats all of a sudden. And it's just bonkers to me. So there's a skepticism about him continuing to grow at that rate. I think it's a healthy skepticism. That said, there's no reason to bet against him in that regard. And if you're not, essentially, as you pick the Spurs here, you are saying, is Kawhi Leonard going to make a leap or not? Because this number is spot on.
Oh, wow. So apparently a lot of people had the same idea I did when Kawhi was at MVP, or was it 6 to 1 to win MVP. He's now been bet down to 3.5 to 1.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, that sounds better.
LeBron is now at 4.5 to 1. Russell Westbrook is at 6-1. KD is at 5.5-1. Giannis is at 10-1. Harden's at 10-1. Steph's at 12-1. I mean, is there anyone else you want to know?
Well, did you say Durant?
I did, 5.5.
Oof. What can I get Draymond Green at?
Is he listed? Let me see.
What about okay? Let me
100-1 for Dre.
Who else is at? Who else is around 100-1?
Jimmy Butler. Andrew Wiggins has better odds to win MVP than Jimmy Butler, which is kind of
weird.
funny.
That's a weird thing.
Melo, Kristaps, Gordon Hayward, Ben Simmons is at 80-1 to win MVP.
Yeah. What? Where's Embiid?
Let's see here. 40.
It's too rich for my blood. Dame?
Damian Lillard is at 50. That's not a bad one.
What about
Jeff Teague is at 250-1.
Can we get Paul Zipser odds?
Do not have those.
Shocker.
Not a heavy German market, apparently, for MVP. But, Kawhi Leonard, I think it makes a lot of sense why he would be the MVP favorite this year.
Totally makes sense to me. Just given everything. There. Absolutely. Do you think LaMarcus Aldridge is on the Spurs at the end of the season?
Yes, I do.
Okay, that's enough of that.
I just don't know what they can do with him. His salary is so big that it's really hard to trade him mid-year still.
Yeah, no disagreement.
So, I think at the end of the year he's still on the Spurs. I would expect that he will not be on the Spurs after that, though.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Let's go on. Let's do the final team here, Utah. Utah is at 40.5. I think this team is really good. Not really good, but I think that they're being drastically underrated in terms of what their playoff odds are. So the reason that I say that, obviously they lose Gordon Hayward and George Hill. That is a lot of offensive creation going out the window. They bring in, essentially a lot of extra games of healthy Rodney Hood.
Mm-hmm.
They hopefully get more out of Dante Exum.
Hopefully.
I think that they will. Alec Burks is healthy.
Yeah.
For the first time in a while.
Yes, sir.
They also bring in Ricky Rubio, who can really help them, I think, in terms of creation.
Yeah. No
Derek
question about that.
Favors is maybe a little bit healthier.
Okay.
Ekpe Udoh, I think, can help, at least.
Yeah. One of the, if not the best player in Europe, one of them last year.
Joe Ingles is God.
I love Joe Ingles, don't get me wrong. And then they also have Joe Johnson still on the team, who's, say what you will about ISO Joe, but pretty good player. You also have Donovan Mitchell. I like Jonas Jerebko. This is Thabo Cephalosha. This team has a chance to be the best defensive team in the NBA.
Yes,
they probably should be.
Are the favorite.
Yeah. Rudy Gobert is going to have to give a little bit more offensively. I think that he's absolutely capable of doing that. I love this team's depth. I don't necessarily think it has, a top flight first string, and this is a league that is still built upon stars. But goddamn, I mean, you talk about 1-2s. If we're just taking top 10, top 12 rosters, this is pretty homogenous throughout, man. This is an impressively built roster. I think 40.5 would put them as the 8 seed. I'd go over. I feel more comfortable. I feel more comfortable with them above the 8 seed than under it.
Yeah, I think that this is a playoff team still. I really do. I think if they were healthy last year, this was probably a 56, 57 win team.
Yeah, they were really good last year.
And last year was probably their deep run window with Gordon Hayward and with George Hill playing as well as he was. But I don't know. I'm definitely going to go over.
Right down the middle?
I'm going over because
I don't know. I don't know by a lot. I don't think they're going to come close to 50 or anything, or even 45. But this is going to be this team is not going to finish below 500.
Yeah, I don't think it does. I don't.
I have a very hard time seeing that. I think that they are one, they are going to be suffocating on defense. Two, I don't think that the offense is. Listen, it's going to run through Ingles now. It's going to run through Hood. Rubio is going to bring a new dynamic to how that offense is run. I think Gobert is going to turn into an exceptional pick and roll player this year. He was already.
Those Rubio to Gobert lobs are going to be beautiful.
Right. I'm not the biggest fan of Favors, but he's a good player, and I like his backups. But, I mean, this team is – I don't know if their pace changes at all. But I think they're going to be a hyper-efficient defensive team, and I think they're going to be a league average or better offensive team, and that formula alone makes them better than 500.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's true. Utah fans, you got to stop getting upset about Gordon Hayward leaving, though, and upset about everything that comes out of Gordon Hayward's mouth.
It's the great white hope, man. You know how it goes.
Yeah. Dieter, out of all of these bets here, out of all of these over-unders, which one is your favorite?
Ooh, my favorite. In terms of one that I am most confident will make money?
Yes.
Golden State under.
Ooh, wow. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, listen,
You're
my
here,
second.
or you're there.
Not that. I just don't think they're going to get pushed in the Western Conference, and I think that they're hyper conscious of expending too much energy in the regular season. That formula just means that they could luck into, they could half-ass 65. I just don't see them giving more than half an ass again. The other one that I really like is Oklahoma City over 51.5, but you're right. There is a level of combustibility there. So. Yeah, it has to be Golden State under. I'm just a pessimist, man.
Yeah, I like Robbie Calland, who I had on to do these Eastern Conference previews. I love unders. I am saying New Orleans under 39.5 and Minnesota under 48.5.
Minnesota under 48.5 is like far and away the easiest one here. Like
that's so many more wins.
It's 18 fucking wins. Like that's not normal. Like what? I really like Minnesota. Don't make me root against them like this, Vegas. Like this is what they're doing. I don't see it. Are they just thinking that it's going to compound year over year progression? Like the progression that didn't happen last year is just going to like show up this year on top of this year's progression? Because that's not how it works.
Yeah. I don't know what that is. That's so many wins.
I still feel more comfortable taking Golden State under. Golden State's not going to come close to winning 70 games this year. They're just going to rest too many players. You're going to see a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot of like Sean Livingston and like Omri Caspi and Jordan Bell. Like those guys are going to be playing significant minutes this year because the regular season is a joke to a team that could easily win 70 games if they tried all year.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's wrong.
So
Robbie, or God, Dieter, we've been podcasting too long, man.
I would like to establish that that's the best compliment you've given me in a long time.
Thanks for coming on, buddy. Do you have anything you want to plug real quick, or do you want to like?
I don't know if I should make a formal announcement on this show, because it did just come through, Samuel. I'm gonna say something on Tuesday. Hopefully it doesn't mess up what I think is a wonderful dynamic between the two of us. But big things are coming. Like, let me put it to you this way: I quit The Athletic today. So,
do we want to make that public?
What? It's not that I don't appreciate what The Athletic is doing, and it's not that I don't feel very positive about it. But a better opportunity came along, and I had to take it.
Yeah, follow Dieter. He's great. You're going to be able to follow his work more and more. Upcoming here.
Yes, factual.
That is factual. He'll be writing even more than he is right now. This has been the Game Theory Podcast. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on iTunes. It really helps us move up in the ratings. I think that's about all I got for you this week. Next week, I'm going to do a mailbag on Monday for sure. I've actually had quite a few people ask me if I can do one, and I feel like Labor Day, that podcast is probably...
Can I get in a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Is Missouri going to be a top 3 seed in the NCAA tournament? I'll listen. I'll hang up and listen.
No.
Fuck you, Sam.
Mailbag on Monday. Send in some questions. Feels like Labor Day is probably the best day to do that. People traveling, maybe want to have some sort of interactive quality to what they're listening to while they get on the road to do whatever they're doing, staying with family, going to the beach, doing whatever. I appreciate everyone for listening. Thank you guys for taking the time. Until next time, though, we'll talk soon.